Okay, hi everybody. This is Miss Shorn. I finished drawing and emphasizing my mythical creature so it takes up the whole space. I've added lots of details, some things in the background with lots of textures and patterns in them, like the veins in the leaf and the patterns on the wings. And then I added my symmetrical border, so if something's on the left, it's on the right, and it's the same thing. Same thing with the corners, they're symmetrical. Then I outlined it with Sharpie and erased all of my pencil lines. So make sure you do all that before you paint today. And I'm gonna show you two watercolor techniques that I think you'll have fun doing. So I'm gonna take my watercolors and think about my color scheme. My colors for my horse, my Fairy Foal, are gonna be blues and purples and greens. And my background is gonna be more like warm colors, like yellows, reds, and oranges. So cool colors for my mythical creature and warm colors for my background. And also the plants will probably be some cool colors too. And the border, I'll decide about that. Okay, so I'm gonna start with some water, because these are watercolors. And remember that what happens when you paint, for example, the wing and the background at the same time. What do you think is going to happen? They're both going to be wet. So if I did cool colors for my background and warm colors for my wing, or vice versa, warm colors for my background, cool colors for my wing, they're going to blend together and turn a kind of brownish color. So today, I'm only going to paint my background. Okay. So, and I'm going to use my two watercolor techniques. So for my background, I'm going to start with some yellow, the lightest primary color, and get lots of bright yellow. So I'm going to start with it being wet. I have a small background because my animal takes up so much space. If you have a larger background, then you can use a larger brush and get your background wet first and then add the paint. But only get it on your background, only the water on your background. I'm using the tip of my brush for the real thin parts, or I could be using my thinner brush too. And I want the color to be bright. So do you think I would add more water or more paint? If you said more paint, you're right. I'm going to add more yellow paint to it to make the yellow brighter. If you add more water, the yellow is going to be watery and lighter. Of course, you do want it to be wet. You don't want it to be dry and sticky. So I'm going to add this yellow everywhere. When I run out of water and paint, get more, but don't get a puddle. Try to get it just enough so it's bright. Okay, so if I have yellow on the left side, I want it to be symmetrical, so I'm going to put yellow on the right side too. Use the tip of your brush to go around the edges. You could hold it like a chopstick or hold it straight up and down, just so you're using the tip. And then you can fill in with the side of your brush. Keep getting more paint. You don't want to run out of paint and use dry brush. Then I'm going to slowly change to from yellow to orange, but I'm gonna add more yellow at the bottom too. Well, I better do it actually right now while the paint's wet, because when you blend it, the paint needs to be wet. So I'm going just about as high as that one is. Get more paint to get it bright. And go a little bit higher and then add the orange paint to it. So I'm going to do blend two colors by adding the orange. Get the orange up here, and in order to blend it, it has to be wet. I don't want to have it like candy corn, like yellow orange. I want it to be yellow and then slowly like yellow orange. And then orange. So you can move it down into the yellow to kind of slowly change from yellow to orange. If it dries, you're going to have a line, so you want to keep doing it while it's wet. So I need to get more yellow in this middle part. If it starts getting on the wings, just kind of take your finger and move it away, or dab it up with the tissue. So I have orange about up to here. Maybe I'll put a tiny bit right here too. And then go orange all the way to the top, just totally orange. So while my orange is wet, I'm going to use, the paint has to be wet to try this next technique. I'm going to use some, actually I think I'll put some red on there now to blend it with the orange. See, that's so dry. I need to get more water. And it's kind of pink. So after I spread the water around, I'm going to add more paint to make it more red. And then blend this one with some orange. No, don't get on my butterfly. Okay, so while it's wet and it has a lot of color on it, then you can add a pinch of kosher salt or coarse salt, which means it's a little bit thicker than regular salt. But don't add too much salt. Or it won't work. So you take some salt and just take a little bit of pinches and sprinkle it all around. Kind of rub your fingers together, but just a little bit. What do you think the salt's going to do to the paint, the wet paint and the color? What happens when you eat a lot of popcorn? How do you feel? What do you feel like doing after you eat a lot of popcorn? Does it make you thirsty? So you want to drink some other drink with it? Same thing with salt on the paper. Can you see what's happening? Look what's happening to the color. Salt is like a sponge to water and paint. It absorbs the water. That's why you get thirsty when you eat so much salt. So it's going to soak up the paint in the water. If you put too much on, then it's going to soak up too much paint. So just sprinkle a tiny bit on. Then we're going to try another watercolor technique. I don't know if it's going to work on the yellow, but I'm going to find out. So I want to have my yellow pretty wet and full of color again. So I'm going to paint over it a little bit more. So it's nice and wet and colorful. Especially around the middle part. Then if you have some alcohol and your mom says it's okay, you could take, it's like rubbing alcohol for when you get a shot or something like that to clean your skin. Just if you have a little dropper or you have a Q-tip, then take a tiny little eyedropper or Q-tip and just put one drop of alcohol on your paint and see what happens. Or one dab with a Q-tip. And then maybe you can find out, what is the alcohol doing to the paint and the water? And you can tell me in your video. Okay, that's enough. I don't want to put too much on there. Yeah, now I'm going to finish doing the rest of my background. I don't have very much left with the yellow. So I'm going to go with the tip in between the leaves. So for day one, you're going to paint your background only. Please don't paint anything else. Only your background. Otherwise your colors are going to blend together and it's going to look like you rushed through it because it's going to turn brown. And even if you think the color's dry, it's not going to be dry all the way. So wait till the next time, the next day that you have art, like you do in art class. You could remember whenever you're done and you get done early, you can free draw in art class. So take your time, do a great job. And just do your background. It's so much fun to use watercolor techniques. If you have kosher salt, you can use that, or if you have coarse salt, like sea salt, that probably works just as well, as long as it's not, actually regular salt works too, but it's just a little bit, I kind of like it better when it's bigger grains of salt. All right, I think I got everything. Oh, I didn't. So, could paint my flowers because they're not touching anything that's wet. I'd need to decide whether my background of my border is going to be cool colors. I think it is. So I'm going to make my little flowers a purplish color. So if nothing on your background is touching your other water colors, you could paint those. Because then I can paint, next time I could paint this background of the border. Think about patterns as you're going to paint. So if I do this one, a light purple, the other one on the other side should be a light purple, which is hiding behind the leaf. And then I'm going to skip one and do this one, not light purple, this one light purple. And then this one's going to be a dark purple. And this one's going to be a light purple. I think it makes sense for me to turn my painting around now. But remember, don't pick it up vertically or it'll all drip. And finish painting my border. This one will be a light purple too because it's opposite, it's symmetrical. So you want your colors to be symmetrical also. Okay, I'll finish that part and show you what the next part is the next time we're painting. Have a great time painting your background.